As you know, of course, every year the LIBF amend the syllabus pretty much every year anyway, with new laws, new rules, obviously tax changes with the new tax year as well. So they've done the same, and this August you'll be doing the new exam, and we've updated all our materials because we do. In fact, we update as we go along, really. We don't always wait until the big day. So what's changed, what's not changed? So here we are, CeMAP changes August 2024 for you. Well, first of all, you've got your new tax figures. So let's just put these bullet points up for you. You've got your new tax figures for the new year. Now, when I say the new tax figures, you're looking at tax year 24-25, which is now covered by the exam. So that, of course, started April this year anyway. Now, we did a video in June this year, actually, of the main tax rates and changes. But other than that, there's been very few tax changes. Get hold of a tax sheet, update yourself if you want to. There's been very few tax changes, and I'll share those with you as we go through. So let's break this down a bit more for you. National insurance. Let's put that up for you there. National insurance. Now, national insurance, or NI, of course, as it's known as, has had a little tinker with it. The government tinkered with this for the new tax year. And the Class 2 national insurance has now effectively been abolished. Now, Class 2 was the flat weekly figure, or paid quarterly actually, which the self-employed sole traders had to pay in order to keep their record for their pensions and stuff like that. They also pay under Class 4, which is a percentage, but that's staying. So the Class 2 is effectively gone now, or paid for by the government in order to give people their stamp. So that's just cleaned things up a little bit. So Class 2 is now no longer there. So that's a little change for you that we've incorporated into our materials as well. Child benefit. Now, child benefit, again, whatever the Labour government decides to do with this, I don't know, it's up to them. But at the moment, the change here is that you can claim for child benefit and get your child benefit. But if anybody in the household now earns more than £60,000 as a salary or profits in a business, and there's any one person in the household, it's not two people joined together yet, then you gradually lose it and you have to pay it back. It's between 60 and 80, I think. You lose it completely. But anything over 60, you start to lose it and you have to pay some back. The best bet to do, if you are earning that sort of money and you think you're going to have to pay it back, is claim it, because the person claiming it gets a national insurance stamp. In other words, they get a 1 year's credit, if you like, for national insurance, or for however long they pay it for, which allows them to get their state pension. So you should do that as well. But then tick the box not to receive the benefit. That's the key. You don't want to be paying it back a year later. That's a right old palaver, isn't it? So that's just a little change there for you. Capital gains tax, CGT, our friend. Capital gains tax has got a couple of changes. Again, Rachel might do something in October in the budget. Fair play to her. That won't affect your CeMAP unless it's a massive change, and they might bring in a change halfway through the year. But you see, you won't get tested on any changes probably until next year. So, but I'll update you in October when she does the budget. Now, CGT's had a couple of small changes. The first one is the annual exemption is now £3,000 as opposed to 6. So this is the annual exemption that you can offset against any gain for that year. That's been gradually coming down. And they also tinkered with the rate of CGT for people selling a second home. Now, if you're selling a second home, you've got to pay capital gains tax, of course, but they used to charge a bit extra. For high rate taxpayers, that's now 24% for high rate taxpayers. If you're selling a second property, so landlords beware. Basic rate taxpayers still have the same lower figure, of course, but they reduce that by 4%. I wouldn't worry about memorising that. If I'm honest with you, that's not going to be a question, is it? What's the rate of CGT? Is it 10, 15? They'll give you the rates in the exam if they have a question around that one for you. That's pretty easy. Dividends, the dividend allowance. Let's put that in there for you. Dividends. As you know, some people are paid in dividends if they're a owner director of their own company. So she might be the owner director of her own company, she might be a consultant or something, and she plies her trade that way. But when it comes to getting a mortgage, she has a small salary and then dividends to help her to make ends meet. But of course, people who own shares and collectives also get paid dividends. And the dividend allowance, this is the amount of money that you can earn from dividends without being taxed, has been reduced to £500. That's come down quite considerably as well. So that's the, if you like, the amount each year you can earn in dividends and not have to pay tax. Yeah, fair enough. So it's not a lot. That'll be gone by next year. You wait and see. So that's divs. Squeeze in a few more changes for you. Let's pop across this side, shall we? ISAs. All our favourites, aren't they? ISAs, individual savings accounts. No major changes to ISAs in the budget or in the new tax year. They did tinker with the minimum age for a cash ISA. And that's now gone up to 18. So you've got to be 18 to get a cash ISA. You can have a junior ISA below that, of course you can. A GISA, but that's just. And also you can have multiple ISAs from different companies in the same year now, as long as you don't exceed the 20 grand. So that came in as well. A couple of changes on the regulatory side. We had a new act called the Financial Services and Markets Act of 2023. Now, we did a video last week actually on this, which explains all the different acts since 1988, which you might find interesting. It's on the live stream from last weekend. But this is a new act, came in. All it's done really is consolidated a number of the equivalence rules with the EU. As you know, we're out of the EU now, but we've been putting all the EU laws into UK law, and the FS and Markets Act did exactly that. It's consolidated a few laws, made things tidied up for equivalence purposes. So not a huge amount of change, because most of the FS stuff is existing acts of Parliament we've already got. So that's small things really. Stamp duty land tax. The rates haven't changed. They might do in the budget, we don't know, but the rates haven't changed. But they did get rid of multiple purchaser relief, or multiple purchaser. Again, we did a video on this one a couple of months ago, just to update you on that, multiple purchaser. What happened here, used to happen, is that if you were kind of like a developer or a landlord and you bought a series of properties all at the same time in one road, for example, you could average out the prices of the houses to determine your stamp duty. So, for example, if you bought 5 properties in a terrace and collectively they came to £1 million, but individually they were different prices. Maybe the end terraces were more expensive. But what you did is you averaged out the million, and then you worked out the stamp duty on the fifth of that million, 200,000, and that would determine your stamp duty. And then you multiply it by 5. Anyway, it's gone now, so you don't need to worry about that one anymore. They got rid of that one. So these are tiny little changes, really, but it's good to know about them. On the subject of CeMAP 2, of course, we've got the new Leasehold Reform Act. Leasehold Reform Act. And this one's dated 2023. This is quite a big change, so you'll want to be taking a look at the video we did on this one. This is lots of lease changes. It's really cleaned up the leasehold, and I think it's Michael Gove brought that in during the Conservatives' time in power. And I think it's gone through. It might just need dotting a few I's, dashing a few T's to make sure it goes through. But that's now in the syllabus for you to update yourself on leasehold reform. So make sure you know about both leasehold reform acts. The one of 2002, I think it was, and the one of 2023/24. Sometimes it's quoted as 24. You need to know about that one. Pensions. Again, we're deep into the bowels of CeMAP 1 now. Pensions, not a huge number of changes. The big change, of course, is the lifetime allowance, which now has been gone. It's completely gone, and the Labour government said they were going to keep it gone, if that makes sense. So that's fine. But what it has affected is your lump sum, your pension commencement lump sum, which, as you know, is 25% of the pot. And for mortgage purposes, that's 25% of the pot to pay off an interest-only mortgage. Now, of course, that's now 25% of the old lifetime allowance, which is now frozen. So there is a 260 odd is the most you can have now, 260,000 of pension commencement lump sum. You've also got the maximum death benefit, which has come in now. This is going to change, so be careful of this one. Now, what happens here in a nutshell is that if you have a pension pot and you're saving into your pension and you're not taking it, or you might have taken the lump sum, or you might be on drawdown, doesn't matter, but you've got this pot still, bubbling away in a tax-free environment. If you die before age 75, it all flies its way off to your next of kin. You know, you put it into trust, it's done automatically. It goes off to somebody outside of your estate. How cool is that? So if you've got like 500,000 in your pension pot and you die, that goes straight to whoever you wish it to go to without even affecting your estate for inheritance tax purposes. So it's a real big benefit, that. Real big benefit. Now there is a cap to that now, the amount of money, this death benefit cap they call it. I think I've got a fancy acronym to it, but they've capped that according to the old lifetime allowance, which is fine. But you know, not everybody has over £1 million in a pension pot. Some people do. People who are wealthy and they've earned the money and they've paid into it will have that. And I think Rachel's going to tinker with that in October. I think she's going to remove the inheritance tax free nature of it. So I think there'll be tax on people's death, which will change things, because a lot of IFAs will now look at the IHT situation, and they've ignored pension pots up until now. Now if a pension pot becomes part of somebody's assets for inheritance tax purposes, it changed a few things. You know, you might look at equity release now more than pension planning. So yeah, it'll be, every change always brings an opportunity for our marketplace. If you're a financial advisor, by the way, if you're a mortgage broker, tax changes tend to be bad news unless it's reducing stamp duty, which is usually quite rare. So lots of changes, I suppose, little baby ones, I guess. I wouldn't worry too much about them. We've done videos on all of these. Our revision guides have been updated, of course. Podcasts checked to make sure they're all okay. Tests have been looked at and updated as well. Boot camps are all up and running now. So all our material will show all these changes. And on YouTube, if you're watching this, you might find some videos on some of these changes that we've brought in. So I hope you found that all useful.